All right, everyone, we've got Holly Flick on with us today. She is the founder of Markors, and I'm going to have her get into all about what Markors is and her experience. She's hosting a session at Let's Grow Summit called The Secret Sales Pipeline that lowers acquisition costs by 25x. And so she's going to teach us a little more about that today and give you a little sneak peek as to what you'll learn at Let's Grow Summit this year. All right, Holly, let us know a little bit more about you.
Great. Thanks, Christina. And thanks for having me. I'm really excited about the summit. It's going to be fun this year. It's my first time. I've heard so much about it in the years in the past, and I'm super excited to be involved.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Again, I'm Holly Flick, and I've been in the digital marketing agency world for a decade plus. Specifically, spent the last decade focusing on the creation of ecosystems that involve training programs. So we work with companies to build education products, digital products inside their customer life cycles that then, as we say in the talk that we're going to be able to give in a couple of weeks, that have the ability to decrease our acquisition costs by 25x. It's pretty impressive.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about that. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners out there want to build digital courses and maybe don't know how to even start. So give us a little taste of what someone would need to do.
Yeah. So what we found over the last decade, and we've worked with companies that are just starting to companies that are, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and the same three things are important. A lot of people focus on conversion. Like they're always focused on net new, net new, net new. And we say that the way that we can grow a business is not just focusing on conversion and net new, which is important, lifeblood of a business, but also focusing on three other things. So there's conversion, and then we say you also focus on content, on community, and on communication. So the groundwork that always has to be done in building a strong business and scaling any business is building a strong customer lifecycle. And I know that that's one of the big sessions at Let's Grow Summit is how do we think through the proper way to grow or to build a life cycle? How do we communicate that to our team? How do we involve them in the process of building this and get them excited about it? How do we plug the holes, all the gaps in our customer journeys, our customer life cycles? So that's actually, if you guys haven't been through that process with Keap, that's 100% a reason to head to the event. It's going to change your life and your business. But once you have the groundwork of a solid customer life cycle, then we overlay these other bits. Again, it's content, community, and communication. So I'll talk about those other two. I'll talk about community and communication at the event. But we have a really short time here. So if we just think about the word content's super fuzzy word. It could mean so many things to so many people. As a content director of a SaaS company, content meant SEO and blog content, email newsletters. It could be what you put out on social. And in my niche, it's these training programs, specifically putting out content that educates your customer before, during, and after a sale, and to encourage someone to engage with your brand at the beginning and learn more about you, somebody to feel like they're connected to you and that there's some reciprocity because you've given them something before you've even become a customer. And then throughout their customer life cycle with you, the ability to keep someone engaged and finding value and working with you because you're constantly training them. And it's not just about, and we'll talk about this at the summit, but it's not just content about your product or service. You're talking about something you've done so much research about your ideal customer profile that you know the things that hurt them, that help them, and that motivate them. And so you're talking about a lot of those topics. So a lot of people ask me the same question. It was a really good question. How do you create a digital product? I don't understand. Like I see these things around. People are giving away ebooks or they're doing courses and trainings and webinars, or I don't really understand challenges, all this stuff. What's the brass tacks of how we think through creating a product? And after working with hundreds of businesses to build these products, it's a pretty simple process. So what you're going to do first is sit down, and I recommend you do this with your team. If you're an owner operator, your marketing director, sit down with your team or your leadership and say, all right, everybody, we need to come up with 5 topics that we can speak to. So let's just talk about, there's so many different areas to deploy a digital product, but let's just talk about top of funnel. If we were to build a top of funnel content digital product, we would sit down and we'd say, okay, let's think through 5 topics. And these are pretty broad, top of funnel. You're thinking through things that Like, say you're a SaaS company that helps people with a very specific marketing technique, like email or something like that. You're just an email service provider, not just, but you're an email service provider. You would create content around marketing in general and maybe even entrepreneurship, the 5 lessons we learned as entrepreneurs, or the financial acumen that every leader needs to know as they grow and scale their business. Whatever it is that's really important to them at the kind of a broader level, you're going to think through 5 of those topics. And then you're going to pick one of those topics. You're going to outline what are the specific points that we all agree on are important when we're creating or when we're disseminating this knowledge. Like, what are the really important, it's just like writing a book, right? Topics of conversation, or the content table of contents at the beginning. What are those, 5 to 10 points in order that we would say, you need to know this, and then you need to know this, and then you need to think about that. And then the next thing people usually do is like, great, I'm going to create an ebook. Like, I'm going to go on Canva, or I'm going to go talk to my creative director. I'm like, hey, build this for me, but don't do that yet. The best thing to do, and what your creative, or your creative director, yes, but what your content director is going to thank you for, and your marketing teams are going to thank you for later, is in the next step after outlining the knowledge is invite learners. So go find some people, and I don't care how many people it is. It could be internal learners, it could be external learners, but go find people that want to learn from you. Ideally, it's your ideal client profile that you're inviting to this, but either way, it doesn't matter. But then I want you to teach it live. And you teach it live either online or in person, and then you capture that on video. So you can throw a webinar together if you want to. You can say, hey, I'm going live on Facebook at this time. Ideally, you want to do it where you can get some feedback from people, and it doesn't have to be in real time, and you don't interact with the people during the session. And you can preface the session by being like, hey, I'm going to teach this, and I'm not going to answer questions before. We're going to answer them afterwards, so people don't feel awkward or like you're ignoring them if it's in a Zoom call or something along those lines. Or bring along a moderator if you have a large enough group. But just teach it from start to finish, whatever that looks like for you. And so now you have an asset. You have a video, you have audio, and you have a transcript that you can pull from that we can add into AI and do all sorts of things with. And we can take the video and we can chop that up. We have infinite number of things that we can do now because we went through the work of doing it live, actually filming it. You're going to capture all the questions, all the feedback from people that came live, and you're going to use that to on the next step. So the next step is to take that asset, that raw asset, and give it to your editing team. Give it to head out on Fiverr, find somebody 1099, find somebody inside your business that can edit this, and you're going to create the info products out of it. So we're going to think of things like, I made a list here. It's a video training. That's easy. So add a bumper front and back. You can use a tool like Descript if your team has access to that. Just makes it really easy to add a front. Right? Descript is a great one, isn't it? That's one I've used forever to add bumpers to the front and back and take out all the ums and ahs. I've probably said 17 of them in the last couple minutes. And then you can, I just said again. Listen to me.
Descript will take care of it for you.
Appreciate it. You can create a workbook out of this that goes along with that. You can create an ebook out of this. You can create several ebooks where it's a series of trainings. If there are topics, if there's a long enough training or there's enough topics, you can create quizzes out of this that you can deploy online. There's an app called Score app that's a quiz app that it's conditional logic. So it's like choose your own adventure. If they click here, it goes that direction. It can dump them into a bunch of different resources, which is really cool. And you can create templates out of this. I did a training this week where a couple people at the end were like, hey, do you have a template for that? And I didn't even think about that. I was like, man, that would be really helpful. So then my team's building a template around those things that I taught using the assets in the way that we do it. So you build all of those, and now you have a product with a pretty robust offer stack, right? You have a training, you have a workbook that goes along with it, you have quizzes, you have tests that maybe go with it, you have templates, you have maybe a deck that goes with it for future use. You have tons of stuff. And then you're going to create landing pages and automations. And this is where Keap is just brilliant and just unmatched on the market. And you're going to create these super easy landing pages with follow-up automations that allow people to interact with the content, and then you don't have to touch them again while they go through the next few steps, which is fantastic. And then you're going to deploy that to market. So the go-to-market mix for everybody is different, so I don't need to go into that too much. But those are the steps. It's not really difficult, and it's not really all that different than creating a book or anything like that. I think the biggest thing that we've found is if you can film it live, and film it, I really mean film it. For all of us that hate videos, just ignore the camera and just keep talking. but just film it live somehow and then get the feedback from that. And now you have assets you can use. And the nice thing about the market now is these assets, these videos don't have to be so clean anymore. I mean, this is beautiful. This is, we're both in our studios and we have nice cameras, but you could do this on your phone. You could be walking around on a walk and training people. You could be standing in the front of a room with a camera in the back of the room and train people, and that's fine too. You just need to make sure you capture the video and the audio, and ideally you can give video, audio, and your outline to your creative director or a team that creates these products for you, and it pops it out pretty quick. And this is not even mentioning AI and all the things AI can do with the video and audio and transcripts too. But that's what I would do for like a front end product.
Amazing. So you got into a little bit of a topic about top of funnel.
Right.
And I know that some people that will be watching this video will not know top of funnel, middle funnel, anything like that. So please, can you give us a little bit of an outline of what that all means?
Yeah, sure. Top of funnel is, if you think of a customer journey, and those of you that don't have experience with it, we'll call it a customer life cycle because that's such a great word. And I know that's a Keap coin. If you think about a customer life cycle, and usually you think about it going from left to right, and on the far side, it's a customer where they've never heard of you, and they're just curious, they're problem aware. We say all these are marketing buzzwords, but we're aware of the problem that we have as consumers. Like, I have a problem. My customers do not move through the process of onboarding without me doing everything, and it's killing me, or there's bottlenecks everywhere, and then I'm losing business, and it's like painful. And so they're online, they're searching around everywhere. So that's top of funnel. That's, they don't know who you are. The most prospects are there for you. There's tons of people at the top of a funnel, if you can think about it this way. So top of funnel, you want to keep your content pretty broad. You're just trying to cast a wide net and pull people into awareness of you as an option. And that's why you're not focused on, you may be focused on your particular problem that your company solves, but you kind of keeping it a little bit broad. So it's not just talking about yourself, right? When we get to the middle of funnel, we start to talk about people looking at the difference between you and somebody else, or doing some comparison, and they're considering the possibility of working with you. And that's where we're telling them a little more about us. That's where awareness of the things that we've done, accolades, it's a little bit of humble brags and things like that, pictures of who we've worked with that they would be impressed with, or things like that. That's where that goes, because they're comparing you to someone else. Bottom of funnel is where we offer an opportunity to convert. So it's like, hey, and that's where the least amount of people are. Like, everybody's funneled through it to get to this bottom point. And there's a subset of the audience here that you've been talking to that's gotten to the point where they're like, yeah, I want to work with you. Like, how do I work with you? What does that look like? And that's where your offers are put out. And that's where you're a little bit more open about, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what we want to do with you. This is how you can work with us. This is ridiculously broad, but that's kind of the idea of top of funnel. What I like to do is there's a book that has coined this term really well. I haven't read it yet, but somebody mentioned it to me. It's called Flip the Funnel. But it's the idea that somebody comes in the funnel, and then afterwards we just kind of are like, yay, we sold them something. It's great. Let's go fill the top again. But what we know, and I will die on this. I mean, I literally I have it on my whiteboard right here because I think about it all the time. A really well documented fact is that if we can increase retention, if after someone converts and we don't, they kind of fall into the bucket of like, okay, you're a customer. If we can retain and resell, or just retain, or increase retention of those customers by 5%, we can increase profitability by 25 to 95%. There's only so many knobs you can turn in a business, where if I turn this knob by only 5%, the back end of that looks like a 95% profit increase. It's insane. So my company does a lot of focusing on this. A lot of my attention is on this back end. Once somebody becomes a customer, we know that it costs 25 times more to go find a new customer than it does to sell something, either the same thing or something more expensive even, to the same customers we already have in that bucket. So if we can, like, once we get that acquisition funnel working pretty well, we have to immediately turn our minds into what do we do down here once we have them. So the talk that I'm giving in a couple of weeks at the summit is all around what do we do to capture that 5%. How do we Let's talk about 95. Like, how do we capture that 95% profit increase? And how do we reduce our cost to sell someone by 25 times, which is the exciting thing. So we talk about how to use this digital product revolution all throughout the customer journey, top of funnel, bottom of funnel, through retention to loyalty, where they come and they never want to leave. And you guys, I have had customers who are clients who've had their customers tattoo their logo on their wrists. Like, I've had two customers who or clients whose customers have done that because they love them so much. So we're going to talk about how to use digital products all along this customer life cycle that you're going to design when you come to the summit. We're going to take that customer life cycle and we're going to add these content community and communication to all of this and really tighten up that acquisition funnel. It's really fun.
Fantastic. We can't wait, Holly. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Christina. I appreciate the time.